everyone. My name's Karen Pack. I'm the Director of Integrated Marketing at Rakuten Viki. I lead the CRM team. And I'm here to talk about how we've been partnering with Braze and Movable Ink to create scalable cross-channel personalization across our marketing campaigns. And Patrick from Braze, who I work with very closely, will do his introductions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick Dwyer. I'm a Senior Customer Success Manager at Braze and have been working with Karen and her team at Viki for a little bit over a year, with a good portion of that time leveraging a lot of Movable Ink use cases as well. Karen, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about some of the use cases you all are leveraging with these platforms.
Yeah, definitely, Patrick. I guess before we dive into some of those use cases, I just wanted to give some background on who we are at Rakuten Viki, what our product is for people who might not be familiar with it. So we're actually a streaming video on-demand service for dramas, movies, variety shows, but mainly with content coming out of Asia. And we're a global platform, so we're accessible in many, many countries around the world. But the cool thing about us that makes us different from other streaming services is that our subtitles, which are translated into also many, many languages, are mostly done by a volunteer subbing community, which I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about later. In the last few years, our business has really seen tremendous growth, just growth in the streaming space. I think growth has come in terms of interest in Asian content, whether it be K-pop or K-dramas, and then Chinese dramas are growing as a vertical too, and they're becoming very popular just around the world. And then in the last 6 months in particular, because of the pandemic situation, we've also continue to just like skyrocket in growth, which has been amazing. But it's obviously just become really important for us, given that, to find the right strategies as a marketing team so that we can continue to propel our business forward and find the right ways to make sure that we're helping to set up our business for longevity and sustainability. So this partnership with Braze and Movable Ink that's been established has come at a really good time in terms of being able to reach our large global audience in really meaningful and relevant ways. And we have some really good learnings and insights and also some successes and positive collaborations. So one of the things around engagement I wanted to talk to is a tactic we use around really thinking about how do we reach our customers through different touch points, not just a single channel approach, but a multi-channel approach. So we basically know that when we engage our users on or off our app, using interactive features really, really helps drive that engagement. So for example, when we've used different interactive features through leveraging Movable Ink in our emails, our click-through rates have come up. But when we pair that with a mobile channel like in-app, we're able to really find a winning combination. And especially one of the things that's been really working for us has been a scratch-off feature. So, the scratch-off feature works where you can incorporate it into an email, an in-app message, and a user will see a creative. They can literally take their mouse or their finger, they could scratch it, and then under that, something will be revealed. So in the case of Viki, we're always trying to suggest content. We have some campaigns that go out where we send a message. We'll ask them, what are you in the mood to watch, for example? And if you scratch something in particular that says, let's say, Flower Boys, that's a mood, we might suggest to you a show that has a bunch of what we define as Flower Boys. There's also a Watch Now CTA that you can click, and then that'll bring you directly back into our app or to the channel page on our website, so then you can get started watching. We've seen really good performance with just incorporating this scratch-off feature. We saw in email alone a 500% lift in click-through rate. For the in-app message clicks, it was a 22% increase. And then across the board, just in terms of conversions for video plays, we saw a 17% increase. So we were really happy with these results, and we're going to continue testing and leveraging this feature in other CRM series as well, just to see could this work when we're targeting other users for different types of campaigns. So I guess, Patrick, would you agree that other clients are seeing similar success when they're taking more of a multi-pronged approach as opposed to just a single channel approach?
Absolutely. I think my first day of Braze training, I think that's kind of the number one message that was taken home that day was you just see a lot more success with multi-channel initiatives. Having those additional touch points across the board, industry and channel agnostic is just a great strategy first and foremost. So that's kind of the first thing that I think is really contributing to the positive results that we're seeing for this particular initiative. And there's a few other things I really like as well. First things first, the fact that we're even offering recommendations, particularly with streaming, is a really strong user experience that we're creating there, because I'm sure everyone can relate to opening a streaming service and taking a lot of time to finally decide what to watch. So first and foremost, I think it's great that not only we're offering recommendations, but we're offering recommendations in a way that the user has a few options as well. So that's an awesome user experience from the start. Another thing that I like is there's a really clear CTA. You'd be surprised about how many messages are out there where there's not really a clear next step for the user to take. And there's absolutely no guesswork for the user here. It says scratch off here. Clearly, the user should be scratching off to receive their recommendation. And another thing that I like is with gamification, there's some gamification here. It's fun to scratch things off. And I think that gamification can act as a differentiator, not only between Viki and other apps and maybe other maybe competing apps within the same space, but for their own experience as well. Too often I think that marketers find themselves surfacing the same type of in-app messages, the same type of experience. And after a while, if you send the same type of message to a user too many times, it can kind of become what I refer to as like messaging white noise. So this not only makes the experience within the Viki app differentiated from others in the streaming space and maybe with other apps on a user's device, but it's also kind of making the Viki experience within the app and elsewhere that much more memorable and unique. And Karen, I know that there's some other great things that you guys are doing with Movable Ink. Is that right?
Yeah, so kind of going back to what I was talking about in terms of us having a really passionate volunteer fan subbing community. So given that this community is really important to us, they're important to our business, they're our brand advocates essentially, we have also been using Braze and Movable Ink to target them in just creative and fun ways so that we can also drive value for the business. So what's important? So this is around how do we get this group of users to increase their contributions and then retain them, having them continue to come back and keep contributing. Contributions from volunteers can come in the form of either providing a subtitle or something that we call a segment. So segments is just really slicing the video into parts and setting it up so it could be assigned to somebody to subtitle. We have a minimum contribution amount of 500 units every 6 months to maintain your benefit as a contributor, which is really a free subscription to Viki, and subscription will get you that ad-free experience, get you early access to shows. And so we thought that, notifying these volunteers about when their benefits expire and their status expires was a really important aspect in the design of this campaign. So we use the countdown timer. That is a well-known feature that is provided through Movable Ink that counts down to a user's expiration date in both the email and rich push message. And then there's also the ability to set a reminder CTA, which we incorporated into another rich push message. So the timer is actually customized to connect to a user's profile and look up when do your benefits expire, and then only serve it to the users who have actually met that 500 count threshold. This is still a pretty nascent campaign, so our reporting is a little limited, but despite that, the initial reads we have are pretty promising in that we're seeing about a 3 to 7% increase in contributions since we started launching this series. So yeah, we're excited to just keep testing and iterating, getting more learnings, getting better data to figure out what are the other different approaches we should be taking. Definitely layering in more of this interactive creatives like the scratch off that we know are effective, and then personalizing because I know we're here to also talk about personalization. So personalizing with the shows that we think a user is most likely going to be interested in working on and subtitling or segmenting. So, at the end of the day, we want to keep our volunteers excited, engaged, really coming back to the Viki service and providing value for us. And so I think just being able to target them with the right types of messaging and campaigns at the right time with Braze and Movable Ink, it's going to be really key to that. So Patrick, I don't know if you have anything to add on anything I'm saying around just these different channels like Rich Push, because I think this might be a new channel for some people, and some people might not even aware that it exists, that you can have rich imagery in Push. So I don't know, is there something additional you want to speak to on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Rich Push isn't nearly as widespread as I think some people may think that it is. And it's really one of those recommendations that as a CSM, I'm constantly making to my clients. And there's a few reasons why I'm always making that recommendation. One is we just, to refer to the hard numbers, we just see a noticeable lift in terms of conversions when sending Rich Push compared to not sending any message at all. So there's some, strong results in terms of that. But to get a little bit more qualitative, I think that if those, in the audience right now were to open the notification tray, there probably aren't many or any at all Rich Push whatsoever. And I think that it's really important that to stand out with your notifications. And when you have a rich notification, that's actually something that is going to make your push stand out within the notification tray. And, Movable Ink really makes this experience even stronger because there's a lot that they're including in these images that are some, digital marketing best practices. And a couple of those things that come to mind is that quantification breeds clarity and urgency. If we compare a message of, saying your benefits will run out soon versus you need to make this many more, X many more contributions before this date, there's a clearer picture in the mind of the user in terms of what they need to do in order to retain those benefits. So when we think about that clarity in terms of the quantification that we're providing, and then we're kind of presenting it in like a nice illustrative way within the push notification that we could see here, where it really shows and drives home the point that you're this close, we just need a few more contributions before you can receive your Viki benefits. So there's a lot to like here in terms of messaging in a way where you're going to stand out in the notification tray, and also making it entirely clear where the user stands so that they can make a decision as to, okay, I have only this many days left. I need to get on this and make X many contributions, rather than there being any degree of vagueness there. So it's just a great use of rich notifications paired with Movable Ink, being able to include the countdowns. It really delivers a strong experience. And Karen, I think we're also delivering some memorable experiences in terms of new feature adoption as well. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So a really exciting new feature that Viki had rolled out back in May were watch parties. So this is something that became prioritized just in light of the COVID situation. And it's been incredible just how quickly we were able to roll this out. A lot of it is because we had the help of being able to promote these watch parties in the ways that we thought would be most impactful, because we were able to use certain capabilities that Movable Ink provided, and just certain channels that we could leverage because of our Braze targeting capabilities. I don't know if everybody's familiar with watch parties, but other streaming services have come out with them recently. I'm happy to share that Viki was actually one of the first companies in this space to come out with this co-viewing feature before other major players. But effectively, a watch party allows users to watch a particular show. In Viki's case, it's one that we're hosting at a specific time and day. So we curate the content and we say, join us, and you'll be able to watch real time with other people who have joined the party. There's a chat box for live real-time interactions. You can chat, you can share emojis. So it's really a truly co-viewing experience. So in order to promote these events, we use in-browser notifications, which is a pop-up that shows for users who visit us on the web, and they fall into the targeted group of people who would be able to join a watch party. Our watch party is still in beta mode right now, so we're only available on web, which is why we limited it to in-browser notifications and haven't promoted it in-app yet, but we definitely plan to do so, as we will be rolling this out in mobile as well. So going back to the countdown timer, this was a really important feature to us because the watch parties, as I mentioned, they're a timely event. They happen at a specific day and time. So having the timer allowed us to create anticipation and excitement for the events in advance. We also use those add to calendar links, and they just served as another really good way to notify our users and to reinforce the party joining. And then last but not least, we use the polling feature that Movable Ink has so that we could crowdsource our users' picks for the next watch party. So basically we would ask them, like, which celebrity do you want to see in the next watch party? And based on the results of that, we programmed in either a movie or a drama with that celebrity. And our results were really great. With the live poll email, we had about a 300% increase in our average click-through rate. And as well, we also had an increase in the number of party joiners. So a lot of people who were joining because they had decided and dictated what we were going to be showing. I also wanted to worth mention that there were other things that were happening with these promotions that allowed my team to be more efficient, given that we are actually hosting these watch parties every single week. So just the fact that, Braze has an in-browser notification capability, so we could serve a pop-up in web as well, and then Movable Ink features can be built into this channel. It really eliminated the need for us to do any sort of manual programming on our own homepage. So we have a homepage billboard. We didn't have to make any updates to that. We could just use that in-browser notification, schedule it in advance, and then we were good to go. And then the countdown timer, as I mentioned, is really hyper relevant because this is something we would have had to ask our engineers to build anyways. It would have been definitely an ask just because it's such a time-sensitive event. But because this is like an out-of-the-box capability that Movable Ink has, we were able to incorporate it quickly and then just save on resourcing from our own dev team. So as a next step, once we release this in mobile, we'll be promoting the through the countdown timer and appointment reminders within the in-app message. We're also experimenting with social sharing CTAs, which is also being powered through Movable Ink, where you could click share to social. So somebody can share the watch party information on Facebook, for example. And then that can increase the number of people who are joining the party that way. So we're really excited about all of that that's going to be happening. We're going to continue to optimize and roll out this watch party to more countries. So yeah, it's been a really great experience so far, and we've just been able to kick it off the ground so quickly because of the support we've had from both the Braze and Movable Ink teams and the capabilities. So Patrick, do you want to add anything to that?
Absolutely. I think this may be my favorite use case that we presented today, because one of the most common recommendations and strategic advice that I'm providing to my clients is ask your users what they care about. It is more difficult to deliver a personalized and memorable experience if you don't know what any particular user cares about. So what I really like about this is that, Vicky is taking kind of a refreshing approach, and instead of saying, hey, I want you to do this, it's messaging that says, hey, what do you care about? What can we do for you? How can we adjust our content delivery to match what you care about the most, which is really refreshing and just kind of a great way to establish a strong relationship between your brand and a user.
There's still a lot of things that we're excited to test that we have in progress. There's the social sharing buttons I mentioned before. There's the web cropping capability Movable Ink offers, where we can pull in content that's already living on our website. There's also this web experience tool where you can customize and personalize a user's landing page experience that is also a capability through Movable Ink, which we're excited to run some experiments around. So that concludes what I have on my end. I'm happy that I was able to share some of what we've been doing with this cross collaboration and appreciate the time. And Patrick, do you want to say anything else in closing?
Yeah, just sentiments are shared on my end. Appreciate everyone for joining, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Rethink.